24th, 2024. Call this meeting of the RMLD Board of Commissioners to order. The meeting is being audio recorded, held remotely on Zoom, and streamed on RCTV. And we will have public comment in a second. First of all, I want to just make a quick statement and ask my colleagues if they want to do something similar, which is that, at the outset, there's nothing in the agenda tonight about personnel, and there's nothing about feedback or action items involving the general manager. I want to make clear that, that Greg is our general manager, and regarding upcoming union negotiations, he has my full support, and he has my full support more generally, as long as he is a general manager. And I think I speak generally for my colleagues in that, that's important. And just ask my colleagues if they have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so I have a very short statement. Basically, I want to state for the record that the general manager has my full support, and that I have full confidence in the continuing management of the RMLD department as led by the manager. So,
Dave, one quick thing. Do we need to do roll call and call it to order before we do this?
We just did call our meeting to order, but if you guys want to
really get to it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
did you want to call yours to order? I apologize.
Okay, yeah, so we call it Citizens Advisory Board meeting to order.
Okay. So with that, do we want to move to public comment, or is
no? I just want to echo the comments of both my colleagues in support of Greg.
Okay.
You want?
But yeah, I'll just say not only support Greg, but also have the interest of RMLD employees as in mind. Our responsibility as commissioners is to the town of Reading and all the citizens within the service district. So as we play that oversight role, it's only to ensure that we get the information we need to make sure we get decisions, and that this is a place where people want to come to work and are valued. So that's where my perspective comes, and the value of people in here, and I make sure that you have a good working environment and you're respected in your roles.
And I think we're all interested in also costs. Make sure we keep an eye on costs, and that the cost structure is low, and that that's what we're here for. So with
sorry,
well, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to second. I think Ray said it very well, so I'll just agree with what Ray said and be very explicit that Greg is my full support.
Okay, so we good? So we do allow public comment. It's at the discretion of the chair. It says here on items on the official agenda, happy to waive that and have it be on.
Should we do Ken first?
Not on the official agenda. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah.
It's a big night. It's an important night. So please, let's go ahead. Did you want to?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been very fortunate that, Ken has been a cab member representing Linfield for a few years now. And he had to move from Linfield, and so he's very grudgingly leaving.
Yeah,
cab.
grudgingly, absolutely. Yeah. This has been a very rewarding experience and a change from my retirement ambition of doing nothing. So
No, and we really appreciate all your contributions, and I think RMLD is.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, in terms of, there's a lot of benefits in the different meetings, the subcommittees, and all the different stuff that you've done. You bring a perspective that, both in terms of thinking about it in particular, but also from a ratepayer perspective, a lot of feedback that you gave us, me individually, but also in terms of watching out for your neighborhood as well. As you guys know, right behind you, it's actually plugged in. So normally we'd lift it up, but in this case, it's plugged in and illuminated. But that is a actual functioning meter lamp. That one looks more incandescent than LED given the color, but nevertheless, we wanted to make sure that as you continue in your retirement, that you somehow are going to get involved in your new place, but that you think of us with fond memories in terms of all the stuff. We greatly appreciate all you've done for us.
Absolutely. The RMLD team and everybody on both the commissioners and the advisory board it's been a great association for me. And again, I'm sorry to be cutting it short. Only the move out of town is what
move out of town.
If Linfield was willing to accept that Amesbury resident as a representative, I would still be here.
Yeah, I just want to say that, having worked with Ken on going to the Linfield Water Department,
Exactly.
which is in a very interesting place. It was a pleasure to work with him on that project.
Thank you, Bill.
Very much so. Very much so.
Appreciate it all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and Ken, it's been a pleasure being on the board with you. You've brought a lot of good insight to the group, which is great. And the good news is you'll know how much it costs you in your new town.
It'll spin the same rate,
Yeah, can I-
same speed it'll spin, but it'll be a
Get more
different dollar. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
running 240. Can I plug it into the main line?
You know better than that.
So, have to
You
have
know
a plan.
better.
But thank you all. Appreciate
Hey, thank you. We should do a round of applause. I mean,
And as we open up public comment, I just want to note the, going forward, so the Zoom link was not on the agenda until 2 hours ago. That's a little bit of a concern of mine that unlike past meetings all year, I understand it. This one was changed, requiring people to send in their name, address, and phone number before they could even get the link to the meeting. Phil and I had some emails today, so that was changed at 4 o'clock. It was finally posted on the agenda. I think it's with select board and others, it's always on the agenda. The Zoom participation is a function of hand raising and unmuting. But to not have a Zoom link on an agenda until 2 hours before is a bit of a concern. Erica, you mentioned it was to limit chaos, but I don't know what that means. But I don't know how limited that was for anybody else who's not happening to be able to go to 230 Ash Street. But I see there's a lot of people who are at 230 Ash Street who would not have faced a similar, constraint on participating that may have been created by that. So with that, I would like to open up public comment. We have a lot of people. Thank you for coming. Thank you for working at RMLD. And we'll start this with 2 minutes each. I think there's a shot clock coming up. So would anybody like to make public comment, please? And just keep it respectful, keep it to what you know firsthand, and thank you very much. Please do. And please state we don't require you to identify yourself to come into the meeting, but we do ask that you state your name and address when speaking. So thank you.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to invite the other public members on Zoom?
Yeah, yes, we would like anybody who wants to be in the meeting. They haven't been in until now?
No, public, no.
It's okay.
Okay, well, it's again, a little bit problematic, but yeah. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sarah Harrington from Andover. I am a former HR director of the RMLD. I have 25 years of HR experience. I am very familiar with state and federal law. I am also an adjunct professor of HR at a local community college. I began my role at RMLD in December 2022, and on January 19th, 2024, I was wrongfully terminated by the RMLD. During my termination meeting, I was acknowledged for the great work that I had done, including implementing several beneficial initiatives for the department and its employees who I cared very much about. However, I was informed that my termination was due to the conflict with the in-house counsel, despite my contributions to the organization. During my employment, I raised concerns to the general manager regarding improper practices and violations of state and federal law by the in-house counsel. Rather than addressing the issues, I was instructed to remain silent and not discuss the information. The in-house counsel, along with the general manager, were also engaging in unfair labor practices by deliberately violating the IBEW CBA. My efforts to rectify these violations and ensure compliance with state and federal laws, as well as the agreed upon CBA, ultimately led to my termination. In addition to my wrongful termination, RMLD violated mass wage and hour law during my departure. It took 4 days and several emails from my lawyer that I had to hire to get my final pay on January 23rd. RMLD attempted to change my termination date to avoid the imposition of triple damages, an action that is illegal. On January 19th, the general manager sent an email to the entire RMLD staff saying that I no longer worked at the organization. Out of concern for the current employees, I reached out to Pam Dakulakis, and she did not return my phone call, unfortunately. If for the current leadership team is permitted to continue operating unchecked, it will grant them carte blanche to continue targeting and mistreating employees. They perceive it as unstoppable, particularly those at odds with the in-house counsel and with the general manager.
5 seconds.
The toxic, distrustful, and vindictive culture will persist, and it's hard to imagine it worsening any further than it's likely if no action is taken.
Thank you for your comments. I think we're ready for the next speaker.
My name is Robert Friziello. I'm both an employee and a ratepayer here. I disagree wholeheartedly with that statement. That this is a great place to work, and we feel comfortable coming to work every day. Little disappointed the way the board has been treating Mr. Phipps the last few meetings. Another thing that's kind of bothering me is the fact that our reliability is being, chalked up to just luck. That's an insult to all of us that work here. And I don't know if an apology is going to come from the board for that. I doubt it. But it's something that we'd like to hear. We put a lot of work into the reliability. And to say that the weather just miraculously changed when it comes over our territory, I've had some property damage at my house in the last couple of years. So I don't know where that came from either. And thirdly, I'd just like to let everybody in this room know that I have unwavering support for Mr. Greg Phipps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments?
Hi there. My name is Andrew Ibarra, former RMLD employee as well. I was hired back in last year, November 2023, under a 4-10 work schedule, 4 days, 10 hours. However, by the time I signed all my paperwork and started working here, I found out that that schedule had changed. Long story short, Janet Walsh got involved in my divorce case and went to my trial. And this was paid through, I'm assuming the city's paying for her a day's wage to go through my trial and misrepresent the actual facts. She sent in unexecuted documents to the opposing counsel, which made my life, turned my life upside down a little bit. So that being said, I let Greg know at that time, and he pretty much, it seems like emails were sent back and forth between him and I and Janet and Sarah here. And long story short, I was terminated just a few months later. They were telling me it's due to my CDL that was expired. However, when I got my letter, it said through my performance and behavior. And when Janet went to my trial the other day, it was because it's a different story now that I was late and not getting along with employees. So none of the stories that they said had added up at all. Pretty upset about it. And I've had a lot of years with, being a lineman. So I know that it was not due to performance or behavior or my CDL. It was because I went against Janet Walsh. Oh, and I can tell you about the whole discrepancies, what you see, where's this overtime going and where is this money going? Just being a lineman, I can tell you where the money's actually really going. So that says a lot too.
Hi, John Pelletier. I'm a RMLD employee. I live in Salem, New Hampshire. I've been here since, for little over 2 years. So as part of the senior management team, I've been involved in the meetings. I've seen the goings on. You hear all the rumors. Rumors are just rumors, right? So no one has a crystal ball. No one's perfect, right? Everybody makes mistakes. But a lot of this stuff, apparently we have more lawyers in the room than I realized. But to accuse someone of breaking the law is a pretty strong statement. You can say whatever you'd like to say, but I think that the number of people here in support of Greg should speak volumes of why we're here. I've worked all over the world. I've been in the Middle East and Europe. I've worked for federal government, the state government before here, and I came here and there's so many good things about RMLD. We try to emphasize that with people. You're not going to make everybody happy. It's just not going to happen, right? There's a lot of people here in support of Greg, and I would just ask people that are here that support Greg, just raise your hand. And these are some of these employees who have been here since just about they got out of high school. Many of them soon after college. They stayed here for a reason. They don't have to stay here. They have a lot of other options. You have some people that maybe they were not a good fit. they like to scapegoat someone who's not here to defend themselves. Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves, and I'm glad to see that the board has come to the conclusion to support Greg just as we do. That's it. Thank you.
My name's Ryan Kiley. I've been here. I'm a employee here. I've been here for 17 years. I've been through 3 general managers so far. And I think Greg is the short term he's been here. He's done wonders for this place. The morale in this place is completely turned around. There were times 4 or 5 years ago, none of the linemen wanted to come to work. They hated it every day. It was a grind. It was torture, blah, blah, blah. But we did our job. We did what we needed to do. It's completely turned around. Like we love Greg. He's doing everything he needs to do for the linemen. He's doing everything for all his other employees, all the groups. He's going leaps and beyonds. And he talks about transparency. I know that was a big part of his spiel when he came here. He's been so transparent. You can walk right in his door. Like he's always said, his door is always open. His door is always open. I don't think I've ever seen that thing closed. I drive by here all hours of the night. I see that light on 10, 12 hours a day. Sometimes I pull in here and knock on the door and say, do you want me to go get you a pizza or something? Because you haven't left this place. I go, I don't know what you do here all day, but he stares at that computer all day. You drive by that window, he's in it. All you have to do is take a look. This guy's given blood, sweat, and tears for this place. And I think it's just a travesty of what you guys have said, done about this guy. So that's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Susan and I'm the current HR director. Mr. Phipps obviously has my full support. I think all of you are clear on that. I've met with each one of you. I'd also like to just say a few words about Janet Walsh. She is singularly the smartest person that I've worked with. I've learned a ton from her. She is wholeheartedly behind RMLD. I've reviewed all the documents. I've talked to lawyers. I've done all of it. And this is not the forum to talk about it and defend it, but I will tell you I'm very comfortable with where my RMLD is in that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there anybody in the Zoom call who I can't see? Is there any? Where is the Zoom call? So there are people in the Zoom call. I don't know if you can hear us, but we're having public comment now. If you have anything to say, or in the meantime, if there's anybody else in the room who has anything to say, I know we have a bunch of people here.
Dave, I'd like to say something, because we weren't, the cab wasn't asked to say something, but I've been on the board close to 10 years. I've been a ratepayer for, 30 years, my family whole life. Dependability of our electric systems in town speak to the linemen and the people that work at RMLD. And I always say to people that when we're never down for more than an hour, if there's a storm, we're back up and running. They do a great job taking care of things. And that's all the people that work here. As far as general managers, I think this is my 3rd general manager since being on the board. We vote as committees to say, if Greg comes up with an idea, whether it's generating power or doing things, he comes before the board, and we may think it's far-fetched at time, or it's, he's reaching for the stars, but we vote as a board to approve that money to allow him to do those things. And then he goes out and investigates it. And then we have to vote as a board or boards to approve him to keep moving forward. I don't know, I don't get involved in the HR stuff. We don't, as a citizen advisory board, we don't. But as a person and working with Greg, he's been supportive to the town of Wilmington. He's been supportive to the CAB. So I just want to throw that out there. I wasn't there at the last meeting when everything happened. But I just felt I should honor the people that work for the company as well as Greg.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Dennis, and I would echo yours point also that I've been an RMLD customer for a long time. I was in Linfield and now in Reading. And so I've been a customer for a very long time, and I know we've had very reliable service. So thank you all for that. And in terms of dealing as a cab member, I've dealt with the prior general manager and now with Greg. And I think as far as the cab is concerned, I think Greg has been very transparent and very engaging. I think more engaging than others in terms of providing us information and seeking our input. So thank you.
Anything further? I don't know, anybody else? We have a lot of people in the room. Please feel free to come forward. Or anybody who's on. Oh yeah, go ahead, sir.
That microphone.
Hi, Chris Zollner, I'm employee, also a ratepayer. Echoing the sentence of all the employees here, we support Greg wholeheartedly. And, you know, it bothers me deeply that we look to the board as, you know, a strong unit that we can all get behind. And that was severely damaged last month for whatever reason. And to take the word of a couple of disgruntled former employees over the masses, to me, very disrespectful to Greg, to the current employees, to the town. Thank you.
Anything further? No?
Anybody online?
Anybody online? Can't see.
No hands raised.
No hands raised? Okay, all right. Does that conclude the public hearing then?
Public comment.
I'm sorry, public comment. We don't have public hearings per se.
Not a public hearing.
Okay, so we'll move on with the agenda.
Comments from liaisons.
Okay, so,
Make a statement.
yeah, Bob.
Robert, I think you're referring to something that I said in one of the meetings. I work for National Grid, and when we get storms, right, the context of that statement was somehow the Reading area, right, doesn't seem to get hit as often. I was meant as a joke. I apologize if it was.
Mr. Cole, but that was not the time to be making jokes. I mean, I wasn't given an opportunity to speak. And you know, you guys were piling on Mr. Phipps, and he's talking about liability. And your statement was, it just magically
Microphone.
disappears when it comes over the service territory, like we're lucky that we keep the lights on.
Yep.
I couldn't disagree more.
No,
And-
I
and
understand your point of view. And again, I'm, you know, and you know, I absolutely respect the work that you guys do. Understand it completely, you know, and I think the context of what I was saying relative, just so let you know, when it's sometimes I see a greater area other than your territory here. So
I do too.
Yep.
And like I said, I've had property damage, so I don't know where that statement came from, that we don't have weather events. That's all I'm saying. I've got a lot to shed, you know, from trees and stuff, yeah. Our stuff kept standing.
All right. Thanks for the dialogue. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. So,
Comments? Any further comments?
yeah, any further comments? Or otherwise, we have a full agenda. We get to move on with the rest of the agenda.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just want to thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I was not at the last meeting, so you know, it may have been different.
Okay, so comments from liaison. I know that we have.
No liaisons.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So move on with, minutes.
I'll move that the citizen, oh.
No,
citizen-
I-
whoa,
I-
whoa,
I-
whoop, whoop, whoop.
Love those guys.
I move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve the May 23, 2024 joint open session meeting as presented on the recommendation of the general manager and the board secretary.
Any answer? Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
That's my turn. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the May 23rd, 2024 joint open session meeting minutes as presented in the recommendation and the esteemed board secretary.
Second.
See that?
We
Yeah,
have a motion and second. All favor? Okay.
including the word esteem.
We should make.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Mike? No, sorry.
Move that the RMLD Citizen Advisory Board recommend, oops, I'm sorry, we got a presentation first.
no, you do the
Nope,
motion.
Present first. Yeah, Mel.
You do the motions.
Okay. Move the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board recommend that the RMLD Board of Commissioners vote to approve the reallocation of $400,000 for forestry tree truck to the purchase of line truck, originally approved as project 118, page 35. For the current year 24 capital budget, on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second, okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Let's get a
So we can stop
presentation.
there.
Get a presentation.
Okay, so now. Is there a presentation from?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slide. So basically, we allocated $600,000 for a forestry truck and a chipper. So we're not gonna go that route. So we're gonna keep the in-house contractor crew for the tree trimming. So I mean, not in-house, the contractors that we're using.
Yep.
So we wanted to reallocate $400,000 of that $600,000 that was in the budget for purchase of a new line truck. And now, we'd go to bid and take probably a year and a half, 2 years before we got the truck.
So, ready for the motion?
Might let them go first.
Okay.
You have to get
Yeah,
their.
we read So we read the motion?
You read the motion.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Second, so.
any questions? Any questions?
I just want to say, town of Wilmington sort of bought the truck for our department for the things we do, and it took 3 years to get it, so.
oh yeah,
Way out.
I also work in the industry and I'll say 400,000 is accurate. It's we're going up. Again, the same. Round roughly the same.
Thank you. So any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'll read the motion. Move the RMLD Board of Commissioners on the recommendation of the Citizen Advisory Board approve the reallocation of $400,000 for the forestry tree truck to the purchase of the line truck originally approved as project 118, page 35 of the CY 24 capital budget on the recommendation of general manager.
Second. Pam can do that one.
Second by Pam. Okay, any discussion? No. Ready for a vote? In favor?
You know,
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Onward.
thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Keep going.
Now the next one for you guys.
Yep.
okay, you want me to move the motion?
Sure.
Okay. Move that RFQ 2024-37 for 2024 stake body truck dump truck with trading be awarded to Liberty Chevrolet for a net delivered price of $98,689.80 pursuant to the town of Reading's membership with the Greater Boston Police Council on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Presentation.
That's our present rack
Okay.
body, 1998. So we're replacing.
Explain a little more.
It's a very,
Yeah,
it's a very succinct presentation. Yeah.
so basically we had $100,000 budgeted for it, and we had the opportunity to purchase through a program with the state, the Greater Boston Police Council contract. And it's all within the rules of the bidding process, so we were able to get a replacement for this one, a rack body with a body that dumps as well.
And within budget.
Okay then. Ready for a vote? All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.
Do the next one. Move that IFP 2024-23 for pad mounted preliminary metering cabinet. Primary,
Yep. all right.
primary, I said that, didn't I? Awarded to Stewart C. I. Irby Company for $216,588 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Paragraph 56D, on the recommendation of General Manager.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
How many cabinets? I think it was 6.
Okay, did we just vote?
Yeah, we just did.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I went home to watch it on TV.
Log into Zoom. So, all of the Board of Commissioners attended with me the NEPA 2024 conference. One of the things that we try and do is bring back lessons learned. There were several presentations. These aren't all the presentations, but these are some of the critical ones. I'll walk through some key points from each one of them, and then we can have a brief discussion in terms of observations that you guys saw as well. Glad you guys could all come. The first one's the keynote. ISO New England, Al McBride, well known in our industry. His focus was on transmission planning. His key points, the key things there are ones that we heard a year ago at from Gordon Van Wheely, but a shift from natural gas to storage and renewables. I won't read all these, just a couple of key points from each one of these. As we know, right, transmission infrastructure is going to be required as part of that transition to renewables and storage. Part of that transmission infrastructure requirement is due to increased load due to electrification, but also due to a more distributed configuration of those storage and renewable assets. There'll be more of them spread throughout the territory, so you need transmission systems to connect to it. The other element is that CAR, the capacity reform, that basically is focused on the capacity market. There's a 4-year planning in place right now. The former auction program has deemed to be less responsive to a much more volatile and quick moving market. And so that's likely to be 2028. So he spent some time walking through those pieces. He walked quickly through, so the other key points, third bullet down, offshore wind now pushed out to the mid-2030s. He mentioned that specifically. You guys remember we talked briefly about this, but about 6 weeks ago now, one of the blades from the offshore system it's a big system. So these are the first set of turbines that are being installed offshore. One of them broke, ended up washing onto the shores of Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. There's a 1-year moratorium in terms of any additional progress. And then there's a whole bunch of other issues tied to the new bidding of the programs. Anyways, all said and done, that the majority of that infrastructure is probably now pushed out to the mid-2030s. Originally, it was meant to be late 2020s and then early 2030s. That has an implication we'll talk about in just a minute in terms of how we think about our power supply. The thing that he did talk about, that Al McBride talked about, was is there a way to slow down retirements? Retirements are moving pretty aggressively. The other key topic that is, we've heard it over and over again, but the very last bullet there, transmission capacity and energy costs are increasing. They're also very volatile, but he focused on the increasing part. In terms of implications from RMLD, and that was just one of the slides from his presentation. For those of you guys who are there, the app has the presentation slide. If you want to look at them in more detail, we have a copy of them as well. But in terms of implications for us, A, B, and C, but A, the theme that we've talked about before, he mentioned basically the concept of distributed or in-territory assets. And then the other element on C, as we think about our power supply, think about that in the context of this onshore wind delay. I'll walk through all these slides real quick. And then
Greg, one quick question, if you don't.
Yeah.
I think last year, Gordon Van Valley, he talked about gas being really critical going forward, right?
Yes,
And so is the message different here?
no. So just for the rest of you, what Gordon mentioned is that, Gordon Van Wheelie, who's the president of ISO New England, he reinforced that gas will always be a critical part of the infrastructure to support the electric generation inside of ISO New England territory. What he mentioned at that point in time is that it will never go away completely, but the capacity utilization, or the percent, well, actually the capacity utilization, which is in the 50% range, will probably drop to 15% range, 1.5. So which is part of the capacity reform. So Al focused on the transmission network, but the implication of the transmission system, and the fact that offshore wind's being pushed down is how to slow down the retirements of the natural gas. But the core comment that Gordon mentioned last year, that natural gas is not going to go away, it'll just be less utilized, and hence that capacity market reform is going to be more and more important going forward, because we'll have the active renewable and storage assets, and we also need to have a good chunk of the current natural gas infrastructure.
Yeah, my question was more for the next 5 years, if that's not good.
Oh, next 5 years? He did, so Al didn't talk, so no, it was not. So Gordon's comments have not changed. He hasn't retracted any of those. It remains important given the fact that the renewables are being pushed out. All the renewables are pushed out, and we might talk about that in power supply later on. Any other comments? Any other takeaways from the commissioners on McBride's comments? I mean, those are the core themes I think we captured pretty well. ISO New England is real critical. Enough of that. All right. Commonwealth Fusion was another topic. As you guys remember, Commonwealth Fusion, they're basically a small modular reactor. This is a fusion reactor as opposed to a fission reactor. And the challenge for this reactor is, how do you maintain the plasma? How do you keep it contained? And this is the company that's operating out of Devons, and their focus is they have a novel and patented magnetic capability, magnetic field that basically keeps the plasma. It is still early in development. He walked through a couple of different, there are two primary systems that are operational, or not quite operational, intend to be operational. There's one in Devons that they're trying to make operational theoretically in the next year or two, and then there's one in France. All said and done, the key points that came out of that discussion, I mean, it's fascinating, interesting stuff. Ultimately, when it works, it will be a game changer for electricity, not only in Massachusetts, not only in RMLD territory, but around the world. But realistically, as they talked about it, when there were a lot of discussions after that particular session, it's 2040, 2050 and later. So from our perspective, what lessons can we learn? That lesson B is, they talked a lot about distributed generation concepts and, more importantly, business models. So as we think about our distributed generation and storage assets, there might be some lessons we can learn from their business models. But for our time horizon over the next 20, 30 years, these systems are not likely to be a big piece of it. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's all.
How small is small? Like, so is this too big for us, or would this be?
No, there are a bunch of different sizes, but they, typically less than 175 megawatts is a standard is a common size that they're thinking about. So that would not be too big for us. Remember our thought process that we've talked about before, and we put it into the Linfield water presentation as well, but 3, maybe 4 20 megawatt configurations, in some sort of a ring configuration on our network. So it's a little bit bigger, but no, it's not too big for us. But again, it's a 2040. It's a 2040 at the earliest. Any other comments? You guys are all there.
Just
Still might be on the cab though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I think we can.
Yep, go. Yeah. Morgan Scott, EPRI. Key points on this one. Again, these are all, there's a common theme about volatility in the marketplace. Key points that he was making. accelerate that first bullet, right? Accelerate innovation, supply, accelerate the innovation, right? The stuff we're trying to do, think out of the box. Third bullet down, advanced technology is going to be required for the network systems, not just the generation assets, but how we manage those. The last bullet, incorporate customer-owned equipment, where it's HVAC, EVs, water heaters, smart panels. We'll talk about in the general manager update some work that we're doing on that side of the equation as well. We're looking at some rate stuff a year ago relative to letting the customers actually bid their EVs as an example, as a storage unit into our portfolio. Again, early concept type stuff, but stuff we're trying to look at. Implications for RMLD, the first bullet there, data analytics. The second one, in territory storage and gen assets. And then the last, load management systems and programs. So there's a lot of stuff in his presentation, but those are some key pieces.
Yeah, he also talked about AI and the effect it's going to have a greater use of power because of AI.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Right.
He talked about
Yep.
he talked about data centers.
Yep.
And that the 80% of the data centers are in 15 states. It's not much here in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah, that's
not
that.
much.
That's that second to the last bullet, right?
Yeah.
In terms of modeling the electrification, but data centers was something he spent a lot of time talking about.
Mhm.
We've been having a lot. In fact, we had another discussion today with a customer who's potentially interested in coming into our territory. Small scale data, There's the hyperscale data centers, which are, 100 megawatts to 1,000 megawatts. These massive. And you guys saw the 3 Mile Island article last week with Microsoft. I mean, there's the data center demand for electricity is massive. It's not going to be massive here, but there might be opportunities for us to have smaller 10 megawatts or something like that. But yeah, that was a good point, Phil. Moving on. McGuire Whitney, this was a legislative update. There's stating the obvious, right? We are affected by legislative actions at the state level as well as at the federal level. Joy she brought up, she tried to give a quick summary. But I think the key things that came out of it, right, there's going to be new electric utility legislation regarding greenhouse gases, reliability, and affordability. Those are in the process of changing. That bullet B, right? The presidential election is going to have a significant impact on it. And then the other element that she mentioned, there was a whole presentation on that third element, cybersecurity vigilance. Now, we do a lot of that. We did a presentation. So John and his IT team, besides making sure the infrastructure works, a lot of focus on cybersecurity for us. And you heard that theme over and over again. It wasn't the primary discussion, but that was a key thing. So there's it was stay tuned to this channel, particularly as we get to the end of the year. So I don't know the things you guys want to mention, but her stuff was more volatile than normal, and not volatile, but there's a lot of change that's about to happen. Okay. This one was focused more. Dan's presentation, New England Public Power Update. At the end of the day, he was focused. There were a couple interesting. There's a lot of interesting points each one of these speakers made. I tried to capture some of them. The one thing that kind of stood out was that second bullet down. EVs are going to move the responsibility for transportation to the electric utilities. Because right now it's focused on the oil companies primarily. It was, we think about reliability, et cetera. But I haven't been thinking about EVs in terms of that being a responsibility of us as a utility. It was just an interesting perspective to keep in mind. Third bullet down there, again, common theme, you heard it over and over again. Natural gas is increasingly volatile and uncertain, especially in New England. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. And then the last bullet from the very bottom, amidst clean transition, reliability and resiliency must remain paramount. And you guys all know, we talk about on a regular basis, the core mission for us, but reliability is there first and foremost. And, Bob, I know you know this from your work. I mean, whatever utility it is, paramount, right? And as I explained to some of the new people that come into the organization, there's 3 elements of our mission, but reliability gets multiplied by 5. I mean, it's a reliable, and the team does a good job with that. The takeaways, and Pam, this is the discussion we had earlier in the year, but financial metrics, so a better dashboard, And not just for us to operate the business, but also one to publish to our customers. And then, so that you've mentioned this before, and I know that Megan and her team is looking at, other elements in environmental reporting as well. And then the last bullet there is establish risk management metrics. The concept of volatility, not the concept, the reality of volatility is becoming more. And so what metrics do we need to look at? They're the basic, we look at cash every week. We look at load forecast every week, but we need to dig a little bit deeper in terms of those metrics. We don't have those all figured out, but that's a key takeaway in terms of what we need to do going forward.
The one thing I would just add to your implications here around debt, and utilizing that responsibly is the recommendation was every organization should have a leverage policy.
Yeah.
Kind of what the requirement is. I don't know that we have one. I know we don't have debt at this point, so I don't.
But we
know
are,
the need for it.
we should,
But we should think about investing in territory. We should probably have that next year.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that we started putting in place is days of cash on hand. The metric is typically 90 to 120, and we're averaging, even though we have a very strong balance sheet, we're averaging in the low 90s. So that's another thing that we'll probably look at as well. But you're exactly right. Even though we have no debt, at some point we will. Good. All right. And then the last one, that just a real quick summary again. Key points and takeaways. I'll go through the key points, move kind of quickly through this, but implications for RMLD. B down there, right? Uncover and consider distribution support projects with other MLPs. We've got a project that we're looking at. As you guys remember, we have a joint grant application with Peabody, but there's also a joint distribution project that we're looking at with Peabody to help us basically support each other in terms of supporting customers that are along that are on the area between our two territories. So that's going to be kind of interesting. The other thing that came out of Ariel's presentation, this presentation was more focused on a national focus. It wasn't so much us, but the other takeaway was in terms of right-of-ways. She made a big point of talking about right-of-ways. We have been doing a diligent job over the past 2 years of documenting our easements more specifically. We're going to continue to do that. So the easements and the rights of ways, they're going to be harder to come by and harder to document. So just because we're there doesn't mean, anyways, that's a second takeaway. So those are kind of the big takeaways in terms of the different presentations. There's a lot there. Obviously you guys were there. I think the key issues that we heard about is we're in a massive transition period. We need during that transition period, need to think about reliability, and maintain the flexibility that we can. So there's a lot of things we have to do. And there's a lot of takeaways from me. Any other comments? Nope.
Yeah, but thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to hear. We, again, you guys have a chance to see this little snapshots, but for all of us, we work with other people in the industry, not just within the people in IRD, and we're trying to learn from each other because it's dynamic. So good.
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on. Yeah.
Okay, so just comments from the commissioners. Mr. Talbot got recognized for his 12 years of service. He won an award. And I actually also got recognized in my 38 years.
You're right. Yeah.
And I announced at that time, and I'm announcing again today, that I will not be running for re-election come April. I'll be stepping down at that point. After 38 years, it's time to let somebody else sit in this chair.
Let me just say, the entire room gave him a standing ovation with his commitment, both to RMLD and to the industry. So it was recognized not only by us and the contribution to this board, but by everyone in the room. So
it really, the standing ovation really took me very much by surprise, and I just couldn't believe it.
There was a tear in your eye.
Oh, really?
Couple gavels.
Yeah.
Hey.
Bill, there is a request though. We're going to ask before your last meeting that you have to reveal some of the secrets in the time capsule.
We're going to bust over the time capsule.
Only 1 year left.
I
Oh,
believe there's-
44.
there-
Oh,
there-
that's
I believe there's a pair of sunglasses that Sally always put in there.
I just want to offer the perspective from someone who hasn't even quite finished a year. This is like, I mean, I go to conferences, I eat conferences, I do presentations at conferences. Conference in and of itself is not new to me. But walking into there, it was like drinking from a fire hose. That was just a lot of information. And when you come on the board, there's no training. You get elected, you show up, you say I do, and then you're done. And it's like,
Then you start your training.
and then here's a couple $1 million, let's spend it. Oh, goody. So learning what, why, how, really a chance to meet other commissioners. There's actually other commissioners and other RMLDs. I mean, I knew in concept that was true. But be able to sit down and chat with them and talk about what they're doing and the decisions we're making and talk about what they made. It was very good and really essential, I think, for my understanding what's going on. There is another conference that NEPA will be having in October in Worcester, and I'll be attending that also, just because there's just so much stuff to learn. Yeah. So yeah, good stuff.
That's good.
One quick thing to Phil, you brought a lot of stability and knowledge to both committees. I've been on it for 10 years and I learned a lot from you for these 10 years.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of information that will leave with you that no one else is going to know. But
I don't know.
what I've witnessed is true professionalism.
Is it possible I may move to Wilmington?
Oh.
Now we know the real reason.
And another thing is that I think when Phil was chairing his meetings, he paid particular attention to CAB involvement. So I think and when he would so that's.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another note about Phil's just been a complete public servant, whether it's the Reading Light, it's also town meeting.
No.
And also his church. He's just been nonstop, just an outstanding person volunteering his time constantly. So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Phil.
Yep. I'll probably miss it when I'm gone.
Well, if you move to Linfield, there's an opening right now.
Ready to move on to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So
Power supply.
Yep. Why don't you come and join me? I'll do the presentation, but you can answer questions from there. So, okay. There you go. Okay, perfect. Good. Very perfect. Okay. All right. Yep, I got it. Okay. So, there's some questions about power supply, and we talk a lot about power supply. You guys know that we work very closely with Energy New England. Bob Kessel is here. Ken Stambler are here. I'll walk through a little bit of background of who they are. We'll talk just very briefly about the cost components, but there was a question relative to spring 2024. So we're going to talk about spring 2024. There's a lot of data in here. I'm not going to walk through all the data. I'll go, as far as you guys want to go. But I think that market context, which is the 5th bullet down there on the agenda. Power supply and the energy market in New England is complex. It is volatile. And it is, while there's a lot of data analytics that we're trying to apply to it, we're always looking into the future. It's an art, not a science. We'll talk in a few minutes that weather affects both the load side, but weather also affects the supply side. So we have I'll call unpredictable weather. I know Ray's he's a meteorologist, so yeah, but it affects both sides of the equation. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but these gentlemen and the rest of the organization, of which we were co-founders of back in 1998, but they serve the majority of the other MLPs. These guys are credible. The depth of experience and the responsibility they have is significant, and they do a lot. So there's a lot here, but I want to impress upon you the expertise that they bring to the work that we do in terms of our power supply. Cost components, we've showed this before, but I want to focus on that blue box there. Net cost of purchased energy with certificate sales. And what's important, we'll talk about this in the next slide, But we buy energy with associated certificates. We don't trade in the certificate markets, at least not now, and we don't need to for quite some time, if ever. But that's going to become important in terms of how we think about the cost of energy. As you can see there, that's 2024, just illustration, but energy is roughly 30% of our costs. Right? Transmission is another 20%, capacity is on 14%. And the certificates that we purchase and retire is less than 0.5% right now. And I will jump really quickly just to remind you guys, of this slide that we did back in January. But our certificate portfolio, which is linked to our power supply portfolio, allowed us basically to go to 55% by adding only roughly an estimated 69 cents per month per account. So there's certificates is, energy is a key piece of it. And when I say certificate, across the top, it's behind there. But over the past 30 months, our certificate sales have yielded RMLD ratepayers a benefit of $8.6 million. So we'll talk about energy, and energy is very important, but certificates is part of that. I won't spend more time. I want to drive that point home with this slide. Now, there was a question in terms of the cost of being long in the spring of 2024. And the assertion was, we lost $1.4 million because we were hedged, we were long in that time period. So we went, so Energy New England went back and they looked at that analysis. They made their adjustments. Their adjustments you can see there in the left-hand corner. We have a presence in Stony Brook and Watson. Those are not part of our power supply portfolio, so they're removed. You can see the different adjustments. There was applying the proper pricing to the different generation units. That was corrected. Again, E&E made those corrections. There was making the correct NEMA prices for the various hours. That was corrected. And then there was also correcting for the intermittent variance in terms of load to generation. So all said and done, out of that $1.4 million, 1.1 or $1.2 million would be adjustments, which means the corrected estimate would be closer to just under $300,000. On the right-hand side, and again, this is just energy only. This analysis here is just energy only, and I'll talk about certificates in just a second. On the right-hand side, we ran through a similar analysis, and we looked at the different months, but all said and done, in the springtime of 2024, we would estimate roughly the cost of being long would be about $300,000. Now, the reason for that is weather related. It was a mild, so there's a lot of weather factors. Hydro was running stronger than historic, way stronger than historic. And also the weather forecast made it lower, or it was a milder winter last year than forecasted. So load was lower, supply was higher, which moved us into a long position. So all said and done, we're roughly $300,000 if you look at energy only for that period of time. Now, if you take certificate sales and you put it into it, those certificate sales would basically, it would neutralize that. It would bring us down to a zero basis. So
Right.
that's.
I can just ask a question. When Energy New England made their first pass of that $1.4 million loss, if I recall the statement, you said it was not off by all that much. So second pass evaluation change that opinion?
Not really. I mean, it's like, even if the initial, I'm sorry. Even if the initial estimate provided by the chair was correct, which it isn't, but even if it were correct, that's less than 5% of your $32 million.
Well, I understand,
bill.
but I guess the question is, it, the 1.4, the statement made that it was not substantially wrong. That's significant,
Well, I think just in fairness, the 1.4 number came in after that meeting. At that point in time, that meeting was $1 million or $1.1 million. So another analysis was presented, and that's the analysis that they worked on, which was more extreme. So just to play it and to balance. There was a lot of work that they needed to do to try and rationalize all those numbers. They didn't have a chance to look at that when it was first presented. They didn't do any of this analysis at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I think the assumption he was trying to make was, there will be periods, as you get to be in a higher hedge position, there's potential periods where you will be long. Now, we're working on other programs in terms of how to manage that down, because we're also short in the summertime. So one of the things that we're working on right now is a program to reduce our long position in the spring and improve our short position, short being or lower hedged in the summertime. So I don't want to add anything else, Bob.
No, and I think that's my concern out of all this is not specifics of these particular numbers. But they illustrate a point that, when we contract with energy suppliers, we contract at sort of an overall position.
Yep.
Is the price per megawatt
Yep.
favorable? But then, as you mentioned, there's going to be times where supply is high and load is low, and
Yep.
supply is high and demand is, or whatever the opposite of that is.
Yeah.
So as Pam was mentioning about risk management, we need to have in place an understanding of where those risks are and how we're going to respond to them. So my question is more of, do we have that in place? How are we dealing with those variances internally? This discussion has gone on several weeks, if not a couple of months. That seems a long time to kind of manage, adjust, and understand what these numbers are. So to me, the real question is, this isn't going to be new. This is going to, when you have variable supply and variable demand, you're going to have variable matches. So this is going to be life as we know it. So how does RMLD managing that? What's in place?
Well, so we're in a transition mode in terms of how we manage our power supply. And we're going to continue to be in a transition mode.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, we basically purchase power under blocks, on peak, off peak, and weekends. And with the new intermittent stuff, we're now, and that was basically firm blocks. So they would deliver no matter what. We started 2 years ago in the context of looking at more intermittent. Is it more appropriate to start? Well, we want to do the analysis associated with hourly. So we still have a lot of work to do in terms of looking at the hourly forecast of a load and the hourly forecast of supply. And one of you haven't been here, but for the past 2 years, I've been we have been recruiting data analysts to start looking at this. Now, this is complicated stuff. And this snapshot in terms of where we are right now is the beginning of a more volatile period. What we're going to try and do is create, going back to some of the lessons we learned from we haven't had this problem historically, because historically the market has not been very volatile. It's been very stable. And we've taken a position of being 60% hedged. You're asking what
I think the market has probably been volatile, but you've been able to modulate supply because you've been able to draw against energy or fossil fuel sources. As we move to renewable sources, that's not going to be the case. They're going to be wind, sun, and water related. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you're matching a variable supply with a variable demand. That's really where the conflict comes in.
Well,
I guess what I'm hearing is that change is something everyone's dealing with, and that's a change that, and I see Megan wants to jump in, and I welcome her.
Yeah, because I think maybe it was 2 years ago when there was the war and the price went up, and our hedging helped protected us. So we can do the math and say, hey, we saved this much money. And then this year, hey, we settled at a loss because hydro production was really high. That's exactly why we hedge. It can go up really high, it can go low, really, really low. And then when we hedge, it stays at a certain price.
And
right?
all I'm really asking is how we understanding that, how we dealing with that going forward. Yes,
right. So one strategy we can think about is we can have a team actually doing energy trading. If that's the way we want to go, to actually watch the market every day, every hour, and trade energy. And maybe we'll make money off it. Maybe we'll lose money off of it. if that's the direction this board and for RMLD to go, we can try that to manage that variable supply and variable demand. So the overall strategy, when you see both sides are variable, it's actually you still want to hedge. And then the key question, we had this conversation offline before. The key question is how much do we hedge? That's why, and also, as Greg just mentioned, as high as we hedge in the summer, we're still short. And in the summer, if there's an outage, the one transmission line is off, the price of power will be $2,000 per kilowatt hour. It happened before.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So how do we manage that? Yes, I think it's a constant question that we have to answer.
So,
But there's no one correct
So
answer.
it's an in-process answer to it.
Okay, well, that's what I want.
It's in process.
Yeah.
We're learning as we go here. Yeah.
And it's fine, it's in process. I'm just saying this is highlighted that this is the need going forward. And yes, trading power is one answer. And then the other is hardware, battery storage, you know, being able to move that peak between seasons. That's a whole other side, that there's hardware to this also. And what can we do internally? So
Bob has described the challenges with purchasing power on demand. I believe you explained that the last meeting, how difficult that could be and why it was spaced out. If you could just repeat that. Instead of doing it on an hourly basis, I think you provided a good explanation of that.
Yeah.
Come on, kid. Come on.
that easy.
Come on.
The brains and the spokesman.
Could you just repeat the I couldn't hear all the questions.
I believe the last time we met, you is to Ray's point, you know, why aren't we trading per the minute? And you gave an explanation of why we kind of spaced that out a little bit longer, so it's not so volatile of a you explained why you have contracts in place and we don't do trading
Later.
because it was.
Yeah. So, oh, thank you, Bob. Okay, so we look out, we look at like 20 years or so when we're trying to do some of these contracts. But near term, we try to be more hedged than we are as far away, because we don't know what's going to happen in the marketplace. So near term, we try to stay more heavily hedged and then layer in additional hedges as time goes on and bring in more power supply. So bring in at market related prices. So RMLD will always have competitive rates, and we'll have a power supply that is as carbon free as possible.
Just one thing, if I may, back on the slide, go back in a couple more, please. One more. The one where it says that one. So it says it's provided by chair. That's me. It actually wasn't by me. You clarified a minute later that it was Bill.
Well, I didn't use his name, but go ahead.
Okay, well, that's who
Perfectly
it was. Yeah, the former IRD that gave you the analysis and that.
You can give it to me.
Okay. Well, he gave it to the
Keep
board.
going. Keep
Okay,
going.
he gave it to the board and he gave it to E&E.
Yeah.
And I remember at the last meeting in August 22, and to Ken's point, there was these numbers of that are shown there. And we heard you say, Bob, yeah, that's what happened, that there were these overages, meaning it wasn't just hedging, it was oversupply, and those were amounts that had to be sold back. And there's reasons why it happened, but we just wanted to confirm that these were the numbers and why and how to avoid it in the future. At the meeting, I remember Vice Chair Pacino was suggesting, because there was this dialogue and Bill came into the meeting, and I'm not going to do that again, but hey, why don't you, and Phil said, why don't you and Bob get together and work it out? And I don't see that happened, because just today, Bill emails, he took this off the board book and has a big critique of this very slide deck with points that are too much for us to get into here, but I don't know, it's here we are a month later. The dialogue didn't happen, I guess. So now we get the thing in the board book 3 days ago and new critiques, and it just feels like we're where we were a month ago.
I think where we were a month ago is we keep asking the same question from an individual that we hired here for his expertise other than power supply. The reason I put the E&E piece up there's a team of 12 people that have more expertise than we do at RMLD.
For sure.
So what I'm trying to tell you is we have work to do going forward, and we treat going over the past. power supply is a forward-looking.
Right.
It's and you know, we want to try and learn, Ray's points is correct, that, what do we learn and how do we adjust? And that's what we rely upon these people for. Having somebody, I'll stop right there. I think the question should be, why do we keep asking the same question over and over again when we keep going through detailed analysis? These guys are the experts. No. Okay, that's enough.
All right. Well, I'm just saying that we got a critique of it. This presentation came to us 2 or 3 days ago.
Friday.
Friday, and today I guess there are questions about it that could have been resolved had the dialogue suggested by Phil occurred, and it feels like we're sort of where we were a month ago, a little bit to me. And
If you look at all the slides, you are not where we were a month ago. No disrespect.
Move on.
For those that would like to get deeper into these, I would be more than happy, or with the you guys, to walk you guys through it. I personally find this stuff fascinating, and between E&E and our internal things, I'll leave it right there. Okay.
I'll just add one thing. I think whatever number you presented at last meeting, there was no supporting like calculation behind it. You just throw out a number. I think it was $1 million. And for E&E to make a quick assessment whether that amount is accurate was not fair. So whatever, Bob said at the meeting, I don't think this is not a hearing. I guess I've been at evidentiary hearings for 8 years. So I can say that, I don't think that's fair to kind of accuse the E&E for making inconsistent comments. I don't think they are. And also, E&E employees, they spent days doing the analysis because of this, this issue that was raised. So I think maybe offline, if you want, because these are confidential information, and there are pages and pages, tabs, rows and rows of data that, Ken has to kind of go through to do the analysis. He can walk through, the entire calculation process with you. That's how we want to be transparent. He can walk through the entire thing with you, and then maybe you can judge whether that's a reasonable analysis.
I will make one last point. These slides 6 and 7 talk about the benefit of our hedging strategy, and if we were to be lower hedged, the numbers are there. They are in the millions of dollars. 2024, as we talked about before, is a neutral status because of the nature of the weather, the level of our hedging, and the weather conditions. These are powerful analyses.
I just make one comment. I think when it comes to the board and all this discussion around what percent hedging we should be at, it really comes down to how risk averse as a board are you?
Yeah.
How risk averse is RMLD? Do you want to have some risk, then you lower hedge. You gotta live with the results going the other direction. Or if you don't want to have a lot of risk, you hedge higher, and then you run into something like this, and this happens from time to time too.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to how risk averse are we, and what position do we want to take.
Right.
And all the other stuff's really complicated, but really comes down to how much risk are you willing to accept.
And I think that's Ray's point too. that he's
Yeah, it's
telling
just
you
the managing
what
of
the
that
risk,
risk.
what's the risk assessment?
Yeah, I mean,
You
like,
know?
for example, when we were at NEPA, we had this conversation in the hallway. In fact, I asked the question of one of the presenters, it's like, how do you know where to position yourself? And his answer was, "Oh, that's a good question. Well, it depends how risk averse you are. And thank you for asking that question, because that's a really good question." And it wasn't until we got to speak to other commissioners did we kind of get a sense of where other people are and what their value is. And one commissioner in Connecticut Utility, he said, "Well, we're at 90% hedged, but in doing our analysis, we found that the low times versus the high times, we still come out ahead." That tells me a couple things.
That's right.
They do the analysis. They know where the lows and the highs are coming out. And so my question is,
We do that analysis too. Yeah,
let's
so we'll show you that.
so that are we doing that? Do we understand that position? Are we
So we
coming out?
do it. Yeah, I think the key,
And-
Ray, is that we're moving from block analysis to hourly analysis, and that's the
And-
transition.
Whatever that means. I mean,
Well, there's more
that one, what about here?
more granular.
Yeah,
More granular.
But-
it's kind of,
but I just-
deceptive to see just 1 year.
Yeah, well,
Hedging, hedging for 1 year. That's deceptive.
yeah,
You need to see it over a period of time. I mean,
That's why we're
I-
looking
I've
at something
dealt
like
with
this.
Financial statement hedging on interest, people who borrow money and they have a rate, so they get a flat rate across. Now, the way the banks set them up, the bank's always going to make money in that case, is what I've always experienced on that. But, when an interest rate went up, I actually saw somebody who got money back from the bank, but it's a long-term thing. It's not something you just should look at for 1 year.
Or 6 months.
Yeah.
Again, you look at
Yeah.
anything that you take a risk on, you're looking at a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year.
Yeah.
Because you're not always gonna hit. It's a risk. So I always look at it, you'll hit more often than you miss,
That's right.
but that's your plan.
Right.
And you do take those risks to stay ahead or
Yeah.
to be competitive.
I think, Dennis, if I may, so this chart right here is actually, this chart on the left is basically prices. And that gray bar across the middle is our contracted price. So if the area above is where we've avoided risk, and the area below that line, that blue area, is areas where there's an opportunity cost. Now, we can work through how to minimize that blue area, but if you look at the magnitude of the area above versus the area below, our portfolio has looked pretty good historically. Like,
I mean, my full-time job, I buy oil for the following year and I'm buying it now.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a risk that it could go lower and now, presidential election, prices are going down and I bought in 8 months ago. But I'm taking the risk. But if you look over the last 5 years, it's been profitable.
Yeah.
And now this year here, it could come close. I may not lose, but I'll be breaking, but I had to make my decision a year ago based on what information I had and moving ahead.
I went to ground source heat pumps, so I don't worry about that.
Bill just
My
tried.
next school will have
30%
that.
savings. I have 30% savings on my economic.
You're doing well.
The school we're gonna build will have it.
Bill just chided me for looking at my phone, which is fair, but I was doing it because Bill marked up a bunch of these slides with comments about things. And so it's too much for me to understand of what the critique is and what the response to the critique might be.
Well, forward them to me.
Okay. Oh, he didn't see it. He sent it to the 7 hours ago to all of us. Thought.
Build it.
Yeah.
I don't have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Peter. Thank you, man.
Actually, can I just say something? You're saying Bill Bullock, who is no longer here. Are there any other employees for Reading Light that have looked at the same slideshow and have a different opinion? Like, I not that Bill's.
No. It's fine.
I'm just saying, like, there might be somebody that studies this every day here as well that may have a different opinion. And I'm not trying to pick sides or get involved. I'm just,
I haven't seen Bill's.
I didn't get a
slides.
slide, it just went away.
Well, so, I mean,
Well, I assume Megan.
Yeah.
Megan's team put these together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, so there's more than, yeah. But there's a team effort.
And I want to say again that this is confidential information. I think we really need to be very careful about this. And also be careful about how we're handling the conversation. I don't think it's appropriate to have that conversation on confidential information that one party should not be having right now.
That being the price that underpins the calculation here. Nothing in this is confidential.
So, wait, Megan? No. Okay, just keep it high level.
Analyze the data, how we come to the conclusion. We can spend hours with you. We are willing to do all that to explain to you how we do it. But to pitch us against an individual on a topic that has very confidential information, I don't think it's appropriate.
Shouldn't.
Nobody's pitting anybody. We're trying to get answers to information we get and get them in a timely way is all. So thank you.
Move on.
Yep.
High level. Big picture. So one of the requests came to talk about projects. This was just to give you guys a little snapshot of what's coming. There'll be some more detailed discussion of the capital piece, but this is just kind of a big picture, 4 or 5 minutes overview. some of the, the magnitude of the projects, the area of the projects. Peter and his team, the engineering team are basically doing the structure and the design, the capital budgets, and of course the line team executes. So, highlights, go ahead. I'll push the buttons and say,
All
next
right.
slide, please.
What are we on? All right. So this first sheet here is a bunch of projects that we've completed this year in 2024. Starting in Reading, we just completed the McDonald's. They just did a rebuild there. Teresa's Prime up in North Reading, up on Elm Street, we rebuilt the pole line going in, upgraded the transformers. One of the bigger projects was the Mass DOT project at Lowell and Woburn Streets. That was a force account project with the state. It involved 25 poles altogether to be replaced. Our crews did 17, Verizon did 8. We did 17 because of the taller poles, the 55 footers. Pretty good sized project. It involved transferring 3 spacer cable circuits, 2 aerial cable circuits, and open wire circuits, secondaries, streetlights, all that to widen up the intersection. That's a project that they need to widen up the intersection before they start doing there's 2 other projects that they're in the process of doing, the Butters Road Bridge and the Main Street Bridge on Route 38. Another big project that got done by the crews was Fordham Road. All the poles on Fordham Road were replaced and upgraded. Straight transfers on that, but that was 30 plus poles. That area was really in need of a rebuild. We have some new customers up on Fordham Road, North Point Realty, 100 Fordham Road. Large building that went in, no customer yet, but it's a large space. Wrap Solutions in Wilmington is another new service. Stafford Manufacturing, an existing customer up on Andover Street that upgraded the service, required a new transformer and new poles. Chase Bank, right at the corner there of Main and Washington, new building there, new service, new poles. We did a bunch of area rebuilds, Cold Spring Road in Reading, Forest Street in Wilmington, Forest Glen and Wakefield Street in Reading. And we got a couple of EV chargers in at the Huckleberry School in Linfield and the Summer Street School in Linfield.
So
You guys at least get a quarter pounder out of McDonald's?
What's that?
You at least get a quarter pounder out of McDonald's?
Yes. They weren't giving up anything.
So there's a huge site that's been developed in Wilmington off of 129, I think past the Wrap Solutions.
Yep.
What is that? I mean, that seems like potential for heavy load, right? Is that?
No, I should say he's a guy that does all the wraps. Well, I think he did some
No,
EV.
not the Wrap Solutions, but the distribution center.
Oh, Textron. Yeah, it's 300,000 square foot empty building.
They sold the property, 90 million or something, and I don't know if anyone's.
It's still a ghost town.
So it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
It's good with the road not widened yet.
Yeah.
No, but what's the expected load there? I guess that's.
It's all over the place. They have a 2500 kVA transformer there right now, one 3000 amp service. They don't have any tenant yet, so they have no plans to do anything with it.
There's 3 areas similar to that, that particular site, one on Salem Street and then another one on Upton Road. And so those are 3 200 to 300,000 square foot facilities that they're also looking at from a potential small data center. So the fact that they exist and we've got good power to all of them.
Yeah.
The likelihood, so we'll see I mean, again, we want to try and, our goal is to be as accommodating as possible and fast, but it's going to be dependent upon who decides, what kind of business they want to put in there. I mean, I say industrial business, but the load could be big.
With data centers, is there a way of peak shaving or are they able to accommodate load cut back on high service, or are they pretty much flat demand?
There's actually, we're learning, there's different tiers. The hyper centers, they're all on all the time. The smaller ones that would be us, there's different patterns to them. There's a potential for that pattern to be shifted. Back to your other point, one of the things that was in the other presentation and as we look at what's going on from a legislative perspective, and we look at potentially increasing amounts of negative power from some of the intermittent resources, your point of storage. So we've got a lot of storage programs going forward. We won't talk about it tonight, but we're continuing to move forward with the form. That's a 10-hour, but 10 megawatt, 100-hour system to do more of the arbitrage stuff. So that's going to be a key modeling piece.
I know over a 2 or 3 day period, there's technology, but hard to put things in a bucket for a couple of months.
Well, there's a lot of. There's a
But
whole
no,
nother-
I guess my question really came down to what I started with. The question was that half of our power service is to commercial. And so they're big, I mean, when we
60%.
did,
Well,
yes,
it's a commercial end of CNI, right?
all right, so
These don't
CNI,
move too much, but the I is.
all right, so the I,
In the industrial.
sorry, okay, so makes a big chunk of what we deliver.
Yep.
And so if as those spaces fill, we can find a way through their power requirements to be able to modulate that, whether that's a storage through them or on site or whatever. That the other half, the residents, don't get hit because and that can be rate managed.
There are two
I get
points.
that.
Your first point is very valid, and the second point is that's why we do the rate structure.
Right.
But so we always want to,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that that's balanced properly. But your bigger point is there ways, our goal to the extent we can
Right.
is to make our curve as flat as we can.
Right.
To the extent we can. And we'll talk a little about some of the demand management programs in the general manager update.
Yeah, so that's, as we try to fill those voids, we want to.
Yeah.
Both from an economic standpoint and then as a power, delivering power. But we don't want to overhit our peaks either, so.
They're expensive. This big picture.
All right, we got a lot of, moving on to the active projects.
No, you're good.
Like I said, we have a couple of Mass DOT projects. Potters Road Bridge is shut down now. They're gonna rebuild that bridge, Route 38 bridge over on Main Street, over the railroad tracks. We have a bunch of conversion areas to do that they're working on currently now. Edwards Ave, South and Whitehall, we're getting some paperwork done on the poles to get a Horizon to replace the poles. Cross Street in Wilmington has a new apartment building going in. We have a couple of new residential subdivision. We're continuing with a transfer live front pad mount switchgear replacement program. We still have two to do there. We're waiting for the units to come in. They gave us a long lead times on those, and it's gotten longer. So, yeah. We have the Wilmington Senior Center we're working on, and the Wilmington Town Hall. So a lot of projects in Wilmington. Projects proposed for next year and beyond. Looking to put in charges in the high school, middle school in North Reading, the town hall in North Reading, the Concierge and Citizens Energy storage, the battery systems. One's going to River Park, one's going to Station 3. Mass DOT is looking at the Route 129 bridge over I-93, rebuilding that bridge. That's another project coming down the road. Chute Street redevelopment, a couple other buildings on Main Street. Town hall is looking to get I believe a charger in Linfield and in Reading. And we have the Linfield TV, Form Energy, and Maple Metals down the road.
How are we determining how many EV chargers and where are going by the customer location request, or are we?
It's more by request is the primary piece right now. We put together kind of, I think it's by request, really. We're not, our goal is to be responsive. We're not driving them. There's still an opportunity which will change that model, but we did a grant application for a $5.1 million, which is all EV related, but it's tied closer to the highway system. So if we actually get that grant, then we're gonna have to rethink our strategy, but we still applied for the grant. We were asked to apply to the grant because of the previous work we'd done. So right now it's mainly in response mode, but if that grant comes in, then we're gonna probably rethink how we do that one.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to get something near in South Main Street. Would be an ideal location, one of those gas stations down there.
Yeah.
Absolute ideal location, so near the highway.
Peter, question for you. What are the typical challenges for RMLD to do these projects to the high level?
To do what?
What are the most typical challenges that you deal with in getting these projects done? You listed a lot of projects.
Well, it used to be supply chain. We're catching up on transformers, single phase pad mounts, 3-phase, single phase pole mounts, 3-phase pad mounts are still a little behind. we're waiting on orders there, but that was the hardest thing with supply chain issues, but now we're catching up on all that. We just got another load of 52 transformers today. We're supposed to get another 50 something tomorrow.
Okay, so but just in terms of staffing, you have enough staff to do what you need to do. I'm just
I
looking
think
at, yeah.
we're getting there.
Yeah, we got line crews. We're gonna build
Yeah,
out.
plenty,
the
yeah, we
engineers.
have a lot of line guys.
Yeah, but the engineers where we need support. Any other big, I mean, just, we want to give you a flavor. We'll go into a snapshot of, you know, milestones, key risk and financials. We'll try and put that standard piece and then have details behind it. So that's, we just want to give you a sense that there's a lot percolating, and we'll make it a part of the regular agenda item going forward. We'll pick up a project and dig into it as much as you want to dig into it.
What might be helpful for me is just thinking about it in terms of like different, what are the big three buckets of projects? It's, you know, new development, it's upgrades of existing, it's like ongoing maintenance, and what are the number of projects in each of those buckets, just so we think about.
Yeah, categorize it. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Year over year.
But it'll be
here's the
kind of a
plan,
built-in
there's
metric.
unplanned Stuff too, right? So you
Oh, yeah.
Plan,
Yeah.
plan for the unplanned, but that would be helpful just in terms of
Okay. We'll,
amount of activity.
we'll add that to the categorization.
A lot's going on. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. Nope. No, we're good. We're gonna keep moving. Well, just.
Pick me up.
Yeah, we have to take you out. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Susan Inman, your HR director. For those of you who might not know me, I have just a quick couple of slides. Okay. Then I'll just run through with you. I know it's been a long night, so we're going to make this as quick as we can. We just broke down the RML workforce by generation. And this is just a snapshot of RMLD today. But in terms of today's workforce in general, I looked up some numbers, you know, online and saw that Harvard Business Review had similar numbers just for the overall workforce. So their numbers were like 19% baby boomers, 35.5% Gen Xers, 39.4% millennials. And their projection was that in 2030, excuse me, it would be about 30% Gen Zs. And if you look at the number of, in this next slide, the number of people that we have that in 2025 will be over the age of 60, 60 or over, that's about 19 employees. And if you kind of do the math here, we're right in line with Harvard Business Review's sort of numbers on the overall workforce. Ours is kind of mirroring theirs quite well. I think what we're looking at here is RMLD has a lot of long-term commitment people over, you know, a little under half, whatever, is are people that have been here at least over 5 years, and many over, you know, 30 years. We have some over 30 years and over, you can see our numbers, 25 to 30 years for employees. That you?
Anyone longer, anyone longer than Phil?
No, and he will tell you that. And so, you know, what are we doing to retain institutional knowledge? We're creating standard operating procedures. If you're Janet Walsh, we already have about 35 of those in HR, which she sends me daily. So some are a little ahead of the game. They've been here longer to do it, but we're doing that both written and in video. And we're working with the office to just train and transfer knowledge as much as we can. Obviously, those days of having 30% generation Xers, or these, Zs is gonna come quickly. And all those lucky people will get to retire. So, but we do love our employees, and in 2024, RMLD hired 12 employees, not including internal promotions and hires. I hate to underestimate internal promotions and hires, because Dennis will tell you when we were in Wilmington, I think we had 60 the first year I was there, and like 35 of them were transitioning from job to job, and that just still created the same amount of work as you do when you hire somebody. So even though we've only had 12 hires, it might feel like more than that to us, because we have had people move internally around, and Greg's going to talk a little more about that in executive session. currently we have about 7 open positions. We have 3 candidates at the present time, maybe even 4 who are in the process of being hired. And we're having a smaller intern season this fall and winter. So we don't expect, that to be too much to fill the room in terms of our interns.
Why is that intentionally or?
It's kind of seasonal for them, like seasonally, we just get a lot more interest, I think, in the summertime with
Oh,
interns.
it's not fewer versus last year, it's fewer versus summer.
It's just fewer versus summer.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a big load of kids,
Sure,
I
that makes
don't want
sense.
to
Yeah,
call
yeah.
them kids, young people that are in here. They're certainly professional. So
So just a quick question.
Mhm.
What are the most important open positions right now?
the most, the most what? Important positions?
That are open, which,
They're all,
You've got 7 open positions. What are the
Um,
most critical open positions?
Well, right now, I would say critical in terms of just numbers of filling IRD. We need to support our IRD department right now. So we have a couple of specialists right now that are being, in the works of being hired. And we are filling our final analyst role this week. And so that would be nice to have that staffed again the way it should be. I think it just by the nature of the number of openings we had, that became front and center. But our systems engineer position too is very important for us to fill quickly. And we do have somebody,
That's why I asked Peter the
Yeah,
question because.
we do have somebody interested in that position right now. And there's been a lot going on here. And, these things that we have been going through cause us to, it creates a little bit of a hurdle when you're recruiting, and you have to be very mindful to be very honest with people and communicate and tell them where things are at. And I've been really trying to do that. As you know, Greg, I've passed everything by Greg, but it's hard when you're recruiting people. They want to know who they're working for and why they're coming to RMLD, and, and they want stability. And,
And it's a sector that's attracting positions now, right?
yeah,
You're
and
growing.
we're doing well to attract positions. And actually, I'm pretty proud of the fact that these few hires that we've had lately, we have not paid any fees on. People are coming to us. And I think that it's an exciting, thing that we're talking about, what's happening in RMLD. I think that the difficult stuff is the recent hurdles that, we all know about, and we don't need to go into that, but those put us in a position when we're recruiting that it makes it a little more difficult, just because people want to be stable. They want to be going someplace and knowing that you told me everything. And quite frankly, I'm very honest up front. I mean, Dennis has worked with me, and I just tell the truth. And if people, I'm going to tell it the way it is, and I'm going to say, hold on, if you're not comfortable, wait a couple of weeks, let this shake out, and we're going in this direction. And I've told the truth, thanks to you all tonight. But I think you'll see me hiring a couple people real quickly, because I think there's a couple here that are waiting in the wings. Now,
Quick question. Are there defined training routines for new people coming into the organization?
I would say, yeah, you're probably more the one to speak to this, Megan.
I don't want to say this, but now you ask the question, I have to say what I'm left with is there's a huge lack.
There's a huge lack of standard operating procedures. I've been working for the past 7-8 weeks for about 45 to 50 hours a week just to really clean up. Contracts were not renewed, invoices are not paid, rebates are not processed back even before all the staff turnover. I want to emphasize that. So yes, that's the goal. I want to, by the end of the fall, to have all the procedures in place and to train all the team members on those. And it's not only just to deal with turnover, but rather, people may want to do new things. And if there's a standard there, then they can always, step into new things, or someone is sick, has to be out, and another person can easily come in and help. Right now, I'm literally spending a lot of time just dealing with all these procedure and administrative issues. Not to complain, but ask the question.
And I would add to that, obviously, as far as our alignment and control room positions, those are very safety centered, in that those training manuals are very specific. They move along, they have to be evaluated from a safety perspective. And so that is very tuned in to a certain frequency, and we follow that frequency,
So they have documentation. Every time I get a jump to a step, there's validation of skills. So that's very clear cut. It's really more the professional positions that we're looking at, trying to shore up the institutional knowledge and make sure that it's being carried over, it's being shared, it's being able to be backed up, even just to be able to be backed up, you know. Janet or I go on vacation, either one of us can do something, you know, I'm not a lawyer, I can't do it all, but I could do quite a bit to keep things moving and at least have hands on something and identify something if it comes across our desks. So just for every position to have, you know, another person to be able to step in and do that is really important.
Susan, one quick thing. How many total employees are there around the
Right now, it's about 86. I expect it to be over 90 in a week.
I think it'll be a nice slide. You talked about how long people have been here. When you do these presentations, you know, there's 7 people that have been here 30 years, 6 people.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great slide to show longevity with the crew.
I got it right here.
Oh, yeah.
But thank you for the entry. And so I've got 3 over 30 years, 4 over, 25 years, 6 over 20 years, 5 over 15 years, 10 over 10 years, and 10 over 5 years. So we do have 48 new employees. But again, that's not uncommon in looking at what our workforce snapshot for the rest of the world is. That is what it is right now.
But they may only be here 5 to 10 years, but those employees may come in with multiple years of
Oh,
experience.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking to the age group
Right.
here.
Just like
We have a varied age group, you know. And this is an attractive place to come into. I mean, I entered the municipal sector later. I did 20 years in the private sector and I came into the municipal sector later. So it does happen.
Yeah.
And then I want to just state that, from the point of view of turnover, I know there's been so much brought up about this and there's been so much, and I don't want to say hype because I don't want anything negative for this. I just want to talk about when we look at these numbers, the biggest concern we have is looking at IRD. You know, we have, some would say, wow, that's a huge number. And I went back because I heard this board mention that I didn't have any exit interviews. That isn't true. I have exit interviews on everybody who will give me one. Sometimes I run into things like where the lineman has vacation and he takes his 2 weeks of vacation when he gives his notice and I don't see him again, so I don't get to get an exit interview. Those circumstances do come up. And some people refuse an exit interview. They don't want to tell you why they're going and they don't want to share. But I did want to share some of IRD because there's a number 7 sticking up there like glaring at all of us. And I wanted to go through some sentiments, and I'm going to leave these anonymous, but I'm happy to share names just at another time. I'm not going to do that in a public meeting. We have an IRD engineer. She was not looking to leave. She felt valued, supported. She really liked her manager. She would have liked a bit more direction, and the new assistant manager was filling in the gap. She didn't feel she needed. She didn't feel she had complete training and wanted to be clearer on goals. She noted she would recommend the company to others for employment. And she would have liked to do some ride-alongs with other departments. She was leaving for her dream job in underwater exploration, and we could not compete with that. So there's one. IRD specialist 1. He was leaving now because it was his time, he said, to work crazy hours and learn as much as he could. New position offered him fast learning and growth opportunity. He felt valued and appreciated at RMLD. The director was not a high-touch manager, and what he liked about transitioning to reporting to the assistant director was more high-touch interaction and weekly one-on-one meetings. He felt he received proper training. He appreciated the support in pursuing his MBA. He did not know that what would have made him stay, as he was offered the position for a particular person who he knew, who was senior, and offered to mentor him in the regulatory interface and power supply workspace. He recommended more structure, better goal follow-up, and feedback more often. We had a customer support specialist. Now we're up to 3 out of 7. She was not looking to leave. Her past employer called and offered her her previous position with more money than she made before. She felt valued and appreciated at RMLD. She could not say enough about her manager. Great person, always willing to help. She felt things ran smoothly here at RMLD. She commented it was great to see the GM walk through and check on them and the customers. Again, he also was always willing to help. Her last day was emotional. She enjoyed her coworkers. she varied back and forth on whether to take that job. And let me tell you, I tried hard to come in and say, this is your pension. You know what I mean? Let me teach you everything about, why you should stay here. But in the end, people have families. Sometimes they have aging parents. Sometimes they have reasons that they need 5 weeks of vacation a year, and it's really hard to talk people out of that. And so, some people, you leave an open door policy and say, if a job opens up and later you want to come back, call us. We had another IRD specialist in the group of 7 that retired. And so needless to say, he was happy to be on his way. We had a nice chat. Most of the questions in an exit interview don't apply when you're retired. What can we do to make you stay? Nothing. So I'm looking at that and I've got 4 out of the 7. And then you're left with the director and 2 other people. The director left, hardly any notice. Not the greatest of situations. And the 2 people that left behind him, one gave notice and then ended up walking out, and the other no notice at all. And neither would do an exit interview. In the whole scheme of things, that's not an exodus. 3 people does not an exodus make. And I have their sheets. I mean, I do fill them out, typing in front of them, and I'm talking to them, but these are their sheets. And so I just want to say that because I just think it's important to really give you all the other numbers. I know you all sat with me and I showed you what the whys of the other departments. People didn't make it through probation. Okay. Can we do a better job identifying that out front? We can certainly try. I'm not saying there isn't room for improvement. These people gave some good feedback. We want to pay attention to that feedback. But I do think, if you look at the early people leaving on this and saying, I'm happy, but I need a little more oversight, or I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. I looked back at these people's previous evaluations that they did on themselves, and their evaluations they did on themselves, they said, I didn't know what to do right when I got here, and I didn't have a high touch manager. So I really was kind of like flailing, and I figured some stuff out on my own, and I got better and my performance improved. Well, we did something about that. We built structure underneath the director with another assistant director so that we could touch those employees more. So I don't like or the idea that we're sitting around and we have no idea what's going on. That's not it. It's just sometimes people don't tell you everything they're feeling all the time, as Lord knows we have found that out. And if these people that I'm talking about are talking to anyone here, but what are they saying today? I don't know, but this is what they said to me when they left, and we have to believe them. I don't know what else to do with that. So I'll leave you with that. I really sincerely appreciate all of you this evening and the professionalism that we conducted this meeting with. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, Susan, one quick thing. From working with you in Wilmington, you brought the exit interview into Wilmington.
Yeah.
That didn't happen a lot. And you brought a lot of good value out of them while you were there. Things that we hadn't talked about, and people would come and go and you never talked about it. So it's important to collect that data when people will give it to you and then apply that data.
Yep.
You are very much around process control, training, those with experience that I had with you.
Yeah.
And the time we worked together. So I see that you brought the same thing here, which is the value you've added here. And that's, what I would have assumed you would do. And
well, I don't want to steal anyone's thunder because I'm never one to undercut somebody before me's process. This process was here when I got here, and I just picked up on doing it. And it has a lot of processes, and she shares them all with me. So,
Yeah, so Susan, thank you. I think one thing I've heard and recognized is that a lot of times people come to a company, an organization for the overall image of the organization. But if they leave, it's because of a bad experience with the boss.
yeah.
Okay, a lot of times people leave jobs because they don't like that. They're not comfortable with the boss and not. So you seem to have a lot of experience in this matter, but as you interact with supervisors within RMLD, I hope you're, helping reinforce that, people need to be good in their jobs,
Yeah,
but being a boss is,
Yeah.
it's a separate skill,
it is.
and people need to work at it. I mean, sometimes, you promote people for their technical and operational skills and not necessarily people skills.
And I do feel like that's something that I know Greg and I have had a lot of conversations about this. Some people should be individual contributors. Some people should be managers. And sometimes we get that right and sometimes we get that wrong. And I do believe that us building structure under somebody is identifying where we can help them be successful. And not to take it to a negative turn. We don't need to take it to a negative turn. If they have some good value to offer, we turn that towards how do we build structure underneath that to move forward in a positive way for the employees.
So if you can evaluate, if you have people, some people may be good mentors. They could be a good mentor, but don't have to be a boss. So
That's very true. Yes, that's very true. And I can tell you too, I mean, if you all know, you've been in the workforce a long time. I've worked places where I matched with that boss and stayed 10 years. And I've worked places where I was counting the days after one. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't get the right match. And sometimes it takes, whether you want high touch, low touch, it doesn't make either of them bad. It's just some people want the independence and they can flourish in the independence. And other people want, more teaching and handholding. And I think it's our job to identify that early and try to assimilate to that and give them what they need to be successful here. So I'm not missing that at all. There's a way to communicate, and this is one thing we really have to teach our staff. There's a professional way to communicate. Writing anonymous letters, writing letters to your board, isn't it? As Dennis will tell you, I was an employee person all the way. I had 6 unions. And I think I had more friends than not. You know what I mean? And I really try to support the employee because I've been a union employee and I started out as a secretary and I'm not ashamed of that at all. I think it's taught me everything.
So last question, is there anything different that you think you and the leadership team needs to do in terms of just promoting how people are managed? So I'm not saying it's required. I'm just saying, is there a need to do something different? If there is, please do it. But I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think we're always trying to be our best, right? We're always going to educate. We're always going to keep on going and learning new skills. I don't have them all. Part of the reason I came here was Janet Walsh, because I felt like this is someone that can take me to the next level,
yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We can always learn, and we do have strategies going forward. We're going to continue to learn. We're going to continue to make recommendations that help our employees be the best employees they can be. And part of that is going to be some professionalism training too along the way. How to get to us, how to be heard, and how to not worry about being heard, because I'm supposed to be a hub for confidentiality. I'm supposed to take you in when you don't feel good about your boss and work that out, right? And so I'm hoping that we can move in that direction more so.
Yeah, I do want to add a couple of things. Yeah, my focus is forward. Whatever the numbers have showed, what can we learn from that? How can we move forward? And the 2 things that I saw is project management. There's a lot of things coming through here. What are the project management skills? How do we lay out a project? How do we communicate a project to the teams? Where does that fit on competing timelines? To me, what I learned or got from people, although I didn't interview as many as closely as you did, but I hope you got this message also, that there was a lot of competing requirements of people and that got them overloaded and they couldn't do other things. So learning project management skills, being able to set priorities, to me, that was one of the things that I hope we can do better. And then communication up and down through the organization, that whatever messages I know Greg wants to try to send down to the organization, but we also hear it coming up through the directors of each of the various departments. There seemed to be a lack of communication. So those are the 2 areas I see as improvements across the organization, not just the people coming in, but the managers and leaders of the organization, the core team. And I hope we can strengthen those skills, develop those skills. There are resources available to do that. I think we should be a learning organization. I think that is supportive of people. If we could say something wasn't achieved to the degree that we wanted to, maybe this skill needs to be developed. Let's work on that. Let's not, I want to build people up, not throw people away.
I understand. But part of that too, there has to be trust. And you guys, just as I have to foster trust with the employees, you are also a body that has to foster trust with us, and we have to foster trust with you. And going forward in the best way that we can, we need to be able to trust each other. You need to, we need to believe each other when we, are faced with information that we have to share. And I pledge to give you the truth. We good?
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
How many slides you got?
3 minutes.
Auction it.
Put the clock on.
That's number 2.
All right, general manager update. Thank you guys all. So real quick, a couple of key things here. New team member. Site for us. So she's actually in the process of making some improvements to it.
Okay.
But the outage, in terms of what the outage situation is, there's a whole bunch of reasons why we want to do that outage map. And well, when that comes in, I mean, the larger IOUs have very good outage maps, and we're trying to get to that stage, and we're trying to do it in an economical
No,
way.
it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good.
Being short term.
Yeah, so there's some changes that she's already, 1,000. Yeah.
I mean, the site says go to Twitter. You go to Twitter and it's not
so
there. So just little things like that.
Well accepted feedback. Can you advance my slide? Just go on. Okay, great. Load management. You guys saw in my between meeting updates. So the connected home programs, that is in process right now. It'll be rolled out formally in November, but we're contracted with them. We'll kick off meeting next week. So that's just on the residential side, primarily thermostats and EVs and water heaters. We're working with E&E on a C&I program. They gave us some feedback or we gave them some feedback in late August, so that's in process as well. Next item down there real quick, again, a novel load management system. It's stepwise. It's a startup company that we did a joint grant application last year. But it basically, it's a customer, we'll give you a little more details behind it, but it's basically a load limiting system during peak hours, or if the electric panel is exceeding safe loading. So there's a whole bunch of neat stuff there that we're doing. And then the Drive EV program that I talked about in those different updates, it's going to come forward as well. So in terms of load management and demand response, we talked about it back in the summertime. We're actually moving that forward and getting stuff done. Last slide. Okay. So we talked, so the annual report, we, for a whole bunch of reasons, and so Dave asked us, the chair asked us to move it out. We put it, it was in the package earlier. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance earlier. It was in the
Oh,
package.
it was in the packet. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was.
Yeah, it was in the package that went out on Friday.
Oh, yeah, on Friday. I thought you said last month. It was
And Friday. No, it wasn't. No, yeah, I think the request was, I think you said, hey, let's just hold off on it. So anyways, we do need to publish the annual report for 2023. And it is, so I put a suggested motion up there. We could wait a little longer, but it does need to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. It's in our policy and it's historically the way we've done it. It's relatively simple, straightforward. The key piece of it are the financial. Obviously, we did the financial audit report back in June. And then we put all the front end stuff in it. So it's not fancy. It's pretty straightforward, but technically we do need to approve it to get it done.
So usually we have the annual report available at the November town meeting.
Say what?
That's usually when we have it available. The November town meeting is when it's
Well,
usually
then
available.
now's a great time to,
Give
so
it
it's ready to go.
So,
Ready to go?
It's ready to go.
you know, how you do the motion.
Yes, sir.
On the board, on the,
So this,
Oh, no, we didn't put, yeah, we did, I didn't put it on there. It's literally the one we did last year.
Oh.
The suggestion, so go ahead and read it and then Vivek's got a comment.
All right.
Yeah, oh yeah, please go ahead. Vivek. No, go ahead, read the motion.
Both, right? Cab and.
No,
just the
No,
commission.
just the BOC has to approve it.
Okay, move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the annual report for calendar year 2023 as presented on the recommendations of the general manager.
So that,
Second that.
oh, sorry.
okay, so this is a comment I had even from last year.
Yes,
And there's two things. I like the business of doing a report and having like a dashboard. So two things. One is you talk about 95% positive customer feedback from a survey.
oh yeah,
Yeah. So I think the best way of talking about that is something called a Net Promoter Score, NPS. NPS. Net Promoter Score. That's a standard terminology used across all kinds of organizations. So it's comparing apples to apples because when you're talking about your organization. So I'd encourage you to think about it. It's a pretty simple metric, but do it, okay?
Great.
So the same thing for carbon metrics. I know we talk about, how much is carbon free and how much is not carbon free. But the best way to do is scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. So then you're talking the same language for everyone. And I know I've looked at reports from other utilities and I've shared this with you, Greg.
Yep.
They are doing it. Okay. So like National Grid is doing it. And so it's something that, you don't have to reinvent anything. You talk the language others know, and then everyone compares you. And I think you've got a good story. So that's what I'm saying.
yeah, no, it's a good story. I think, so Megan actually has quite a bit of experience on that. And so, and it will come out of the IRD group. So she's driving it. So we'll definitely make sure it's in the 2024 annual report.
Because
We'd
I was hoping it would have been here.
Yeah, well, so it won't be in this one, but we do want to get it. So going back to Pam's comment in terms of website updates, in the not too distant future, when we get it, we'll actually add it to the website as well. So there'll be a couple of metrics, but that will be one of them.
Okay, so I think both the metrics, the feedback, the customer metric, use NPS.
NPS?
Yeah.
And carbon.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So I just have one comment. I think it's page 17 where we do talk about the compliance with the climate law. The chart seems to indicate that our target is not to change our non-carbon from between this year and 2032. We have not
made
determined
we've not determined that, right?
So it feels to me like it's more of a TBD in the future years,
Yeah.
not a clear hard line of no.
Oh, just delete it.
I might just.
Well, we can delete, from 2020, well, actually we have to vote. So we can go 2025 onward.
Forward.
Okay, we can change that graph.
You can just say non-carbon actuals or something like that on that line, and it's just 23 and 24. I just don't want the message to be shared that
Well,
we're,
no,
we're
I
not
get-
doing
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, so one, we could do one of two things. We can basically end it at the end of 2024. And just, as you say, actual.
Actual, yeah.
Okay, great. We can do that. I understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
And we can, if you want to do the motion, we can do it with that edit. I have no problem with that.
Okay, with others.
Yeah.
Any concerns with that?
Page 17.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So just.
It's that line that
it
goes
says
across. Yeah, just stop it.
Non-carbon target, so it makes it seem like our target is not to change it between now and 2032, and that
Yeah.
may change.
Our target was 3% per year, correct?
Yeah, but remember in January, we ended up moving it from, it was going to be 32% for 2024. We moved it up to 55%. I think what Pam's saying is that's great, but from 25 onward, we haven't defined, because we're going to talk about that in January, we'll make a decision. We haven't, so instead of kind of suggesting that that's what we're going to do, just don't put it on and then make the line from 23, 24, make a note that it's actuals. Which I think is great.
Yeah, that's
I guess that's a great idea. I didn't think about that. Yeah. We actually talked about what to do and like, made a change. So, but I think delete
Yeah.
completely is a better idea. Okay.
We have to amend
With the requested.
with
As, just say,
And
Yeah.
and
I'm definitely gonna say that.
as to be.
as amended on draft on page 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As amended draft page 17.
I just have one comment. I noticed that in the financials are in here, Markham. Markham is been bought by CBiz, which is a private equity firm. It's an accounting firm that's backed by private equity. So God knows what's gonna happen the audit next year.
where are you looking, Phil?
Well, I'm looking, the financials are in toward the back,
The audit report.
and you got the audit report. It's Markham. Because it was Melanson. Melanson merged with Markham.
Your comment is not so much this report, just you're making a point going forward.
Just a point going forward, and Markham is now sold out to CBiz, which is backed by a private equity firm.
So
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
Something to watch.
A lot of mergers going on in the accounting,
Going forward. Pam.
you know, due to the fact there's a dearth of people in the accounting world these days, a serious dearth in accounting firms, you know.
So one comment I have, this has come up before, is the page 18. And this is why I wanted to just maybe have us have one more cycle or more time to look at it before voting. But I understand there's a deadline so it's the same conversation we've had a few times, but saying we have 31% nuclear, 30 nuclear and 31 hydro, that's not the rec situation means we can only take credit for the greenness, if you will, of some of the hydro, right? Because we don't have 31% of hydro with recs, correct, that we've retired.
Yeah, so that's why, as we've done the past 2 years,
Yeah.
we put your point, which is what's the retirement? But as we had discussed before, it's important to let the people know what the sources is. So there's a reporting requirement on page 17.
Yep.
And then just so people have a sense of what the mix looks like from a physical perspective. That was
And I know
it's behind 18.
I know, and it is the same discussion we've had in previous years. I feel like when we're saying to the reader at a simple, that circular one, oh, it looks like 61% of our load, if you count the wind, the wind is.
Wind's small, it's green.
Yeah,
3%.
so it looks like we're 65% or so of non-carbon energy, just looking at that circle. But it's what's our actual with rec sale? I know, but
It's 55%. Oh, I'm sorry, in 2023,
yeah,
it was
so
29%.
20, it was 29.
29%, because in terms of retiring certificates, as opposed to.
It's a perennial discussion, but to me, the circle, you can't say electricity is hydroelectric unless you've retired the recs. You can't say.
It's hydro, but you can't say that it's compliant with the non-carbon.
Yeah, page 17 is the compliance. Page 18 is what physically is happening.
I just feel like it would be nice if on page 18, there's no text on it. If it could say a little, just 2 sentences that
Sure, go ahead.
impacts, and just leave it to you to add it before you publish it. That just says this is the source, but the quote unquote, the recness or the greenness of it is different because we don't.
They see page 17.
See page 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. whatever you,
I'll make.
whatever you think would do that.
Well,
It's a complicated thing.
It is.
It took me a while to figure this out
You know,
too,
I mean,
so.
you're right. It took
it's
me
gonna be
10
hard to
years.
have it Be clear on one page,
Yeah.
but
It took me 10 years, and then in the 11th year, I started to understand.
I'm sure this is not a bestseller.
it's going on my copy.
We will make we'll make a sentence or two on the bottom of 18 to reflect that.
Yeah,
In terms of
make that
compliance.
point, and
I
because
think
actually
you're not
we don't have anything to comply with until 2030. So-
Correct.
So even compliance is, we don't have to comply with anything in 2024. But yeah, okay, enough said. At your discretion.
I can do it.
Point
Thank you for the discussion.
Yeah.
Point made.
And there'll be a second edit on page 18.
Okay.
All right.
And just on that point, because you're talking about recs and, whether you're recognizing a rec or not. But when we talk about actually scope 1 and 2, you're talking about actual carbon intensity, because even if you have solar, there's some embedded carbon in that. So I think the best way is actually looking at scope 1 and 2 emissions. I mean, scope 3 is going to be a nightmare, but it's,
So
it's not in here.
no, it's not in here. So that goes back to, I think your point's well taken, Vivek, in terms of that. This is purely from a certificate management perspective, but you're right. That's the
To
piece
your
of
point, I think, Dave, what you're trying to say is, what is the true carbon impact of the energy that we are using and selling?
Right.
So capturing it as scope 1 and 2 is the best way to do it, because you may have two things that you can call carbon free, but they don't have the same carbon intensity. Okay. So I think that's.
I've got that action item from you, but not for the 2023
point,
annual report.
Different point than the one I'm making. Right?
Yeah, no, the different point you're making, but I think the spirit of what you're trying to communicate is what is the true carbon impact? It's that's what I'm getting.
Anybody want to spend another 20 minutes line it in the annual report?
That was not my
Anybody
2
else
minutes.
has a comment about stealing their candy?
Sorry again?
About stealing candy from anyone.
Okay.
Bob stole my candy. I'm let you know. He stole my dish.
All right, read the motion.
Did we move
Yeah.
in? Did we move and second it already?
Yeah, we did.
We did?
Did I second?
Yeah, you did.
I seconded
Okay,
it.
and then with
Yeah.
those edits as discussed to the discretion of the general manager, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Thank you. I vote. Me? What do I gotta do now?
You got scheduled.
Yes.
Warrant schedule.
Okay.
Schedule one.
Oh,
And then be your journey.
Are we continuing with joint meetings into December? Or are we thinking?
yeah, do
of-
we, actually, it's a good question. What do we all think about the joint meetings? I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're great in some ways and
Yeah, I like them.
What is the staff?
What would be the cons?
We like
We like
them a lot.
Yeah, we like that.
Like them a lot.
Got a great summary, so I think there's a lot of pros, Sharon, what would be the negatives?
maybe not, maybe there aren't any.
I don't think there's.
Just coordinate schedule for you guys.
Just
Coordinate schedule might be the toughest thing, but I think
Everybody, 2 meetings.
I think a lot of information we wouldn't get as a board that you guys get, and then multiple nights when you guys trying to
Right.
coordinate schedules for coverage. I really think this works from my side. I don't
Yeah.
know if the rest of the board thinks, but
And the pro is too, the CAB members do raise points that we wouldn't know about if we met separately. Yeah,
so if we can keep.
Yeah, yeah, fine.
keep it going. Keep it
All right.
going.
So those dates are fine with me. Anybody
Yep.
else?
I do have a change in my availability for the 26th. I can try to be remote, but I may not. November 26th.
Okay, then,
I don't think we should change just for me, but.
The report is okay. I mean, like,
Okay.
some of us have been.
oh, we're going to Wilmington next month. Okay.
Yeah.
So. So then, no disrespect intended. Dennis.
No.
Okay.
Is that-
All right. I forgot.
22nd there's a NEPA conference in Worcester. I should be back.
Okay.
All right, so no change needed. Get a room.
October 22nd?
Where we going
Yes.
with that?
It's a Lincoln Town Hall. quiz.
Okay, all right.
I haven't made it for meetings.
I want you to know I have the minutes to be signed already in my email.
You will be receiving the budget book Monday. And that's the topic of the October meeting.
Talk to town hall and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think last time we did the high school, because we had just opened, so. But we can see what I have available in either building.
Right. And this is the items.
And are we selecting a December date?
Oh, good idea.
Does anybody else want to come to Wilmington Town Hall? Anybody?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
Never been.
Go somewhere else.
But,
I'm excited to see it.
No, he's Bob's saying something different. I
Yeah.
got you, Bob. I got you. Yeah, you want to try the December, the 17th, Tuesday? Or the 20th, no, 17th.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. What?
Still, we don't want Thursdays, and we don't want Wednesdays still?
Wednesdays, it's tough for me. Everything in the world's on a Wednesday.
yeah,
Better.
Tuesday,
No,
kind of
Thursday.
sort of work.
Yeah, Tuesday.
yeah, Tuesday, I'm
Tuesday.
fine.
17th of
No,
December,
it's good. It's good.
17th is good.
6 o'clock,
December 17th, you're saying?
December 17th.
December 17th.
Yeah, I'll be remote. Okay.
Any other town halls we want to visit besides Wilmington?
Well, again, if we bump to someone else this year, next year we'll have a brand new town hall, and we could do Wilmington next year. But
Replacement.
I don't know if we can, that's probably too late to coordinate those, but, we're supposed to open in
It's up to us
fall
to
of next year.
decide. I mean,
The
as
requirement,
long as,
20-year agreement.
yeah, the requirement is the cabinet to review the budget, at least one budget meeting each year and another.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
Now that we do one night for the budget, that is the night that we're.
if you guys want to, I mean, we can take a look at it. But if you want to do a different town,
I'm just saying, because next year would be in the brand new town hall. That's supposed to open in October next year,
so
so
If-
just a
if-
thought.
so you guys get to decide.
Yeah.
The cab specifically get to decide.
I don't have a problem, because I can definitely coordinate it in Wilmington, I just.
So just do it in Reading then.
But no,
No,
we'd have to do it, the
Gotta
only
do
other
it
choice
one of
would
the
be
outside
North Reading. So, because we did Linfield last year,
Yeah.
so,
I thought we did.
We did not Reading.
oh, we did not very much.
We could do that.
Oh, we go back to Linfield.
And won't be there.
Oh, it's being built.
We'll just do,
Wilmington.
All right, Wilmington.
2 years in a row.
yeah, we can do that.
Chatting with you.
It's a beautiful conference room.
Thank you.
Cookie swap.
December 17th.
Yeah, I'll send out.
Okay, December 17th.
Thank you.
all right.
Okay, that's it. then.
Motion for.
They gotta do
Done.
it.
Oh,
So we have a motion here.
Yes. we'll
The last one, Ken.
Move that the Citizens Advisory Board adjourn the regular session.
Okay, all in favor? Yeah.
Ken Walter, aye.
Jason Small, I.
Dennis Kelly,
Ken Woods, aye.
Vivek Soni, aye.
That's right.
It's a wrap.
I have a question on the executive session motion.
Yep.
It's got the word to discuss a discipline or dismissal. Why is that in there? Can we take it out?
I think it's.
I think it's
third
part of the
favorite,
standard,
isn't
I think it's part of the standard,
We're not
Like
intending to
those are the,
dismiss
but
them.
those are the only
not.
things.
We're not intending to discipline anybody.
no. It's, I think it's the, unless, correct me if we're wrong, but it's
I
always.
just want to confirm.
Yes.
I want to confirm that because it's in the motion.
Those are the
I
only
want-
topics that are
We talk about
allowed. in-
transparency.
The standard bucket
We
that
talk about transparency. I will move to the RMLD Board of Commissioners go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws,
For his,
Chapter 164, Section 47D, exempt from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances. In certain instances,
yeah, likewise.
Hey, Ken.
to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining.
I appreciate you
or
being on that.
litigation, if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competency of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints of charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, or for the approval of meeting minutes and return to regular session with the vote for the adjournment.
Okay, second, Bob.
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thanks, everybody.
I do have a.
Recording stopped.
That's right at the beginning of the meeting, more procedural than anything. In our executive session, I'll mention it in there.